live right here on the early line. It is the round of 64 Thursday at the 2024 Men's NCAA Tournament, and we continue to go all around the bracket and preview all 16 matchups on this Thursday. Games tip in just about 2 hours, 12:15 p.m. Eastern. Michigan State, Mississippi State. The final game of the night tips out in Omaha, 10:05 p.m. Eastern time. Here's a good one, 3:14 matchup. Kentucky laying 13.5 against Oakland. Greg Kampe and his Grizz, one of the stories out of the horizon, his 40th year at Oakland, and now they go dancing once again for the first time in nearly 15 seasons. Kentucky trying to get to a Final Four, something the Cats have not done in nearly a decade, which is unthinkable in Lexington. In this game, laying 13.5 against Oakland. It should be a smooth ride. I think we see some points between the Cats and the Grizz.
We probably will, and specifically here from Kentucky's point of view. Number 5 overall in efficiency in the nation, which means they don't turn the basketball over. And who would have thought at the beginning of the season, Kentucky would be the single best three-point shooting team in the country as a team making 41% of their shots. And also, they're about midway, Ben. It's not as if they say, you know what, we don't even take a lot. We'll go 2 for 4 every night. They shoot it at a pretty good clip here, coming in at 184th in the country. Here's the issue that you're going to have with your Oakland's defense, though, because you make free throws for Kentucky. You're still very good inside the arc, but outside the arc, you are absolutely lights out. And also, from a shooting standpoint, 290th in the country at letting you shoot the three-point shot. That's Oakland here. If Kentucky's three ball is going down, they should run them over. And also keep in mind, Oakland doesn't have a great tempo to the offense. Kentucky likes to get it more and down. The one thing we like to say is imposing your will. We'll talk about a team like St. Mary's later in the tournament. They can impose their will because they're quality on offense and they can dictate the pace. Oakland's not going to be able to do that. I think Oakland's going to be able to slow down Kentucky's offense. I don't think that's the case. Having said that, though, Oakland does have a pretty good offense here. And as much as we've liked Kentucky here, we have seen some games where it's like, ooh, question what they're actually doing at this point. I'm not saying Kentucky's getting beat because they're not today, but I would lean on Oakland taking the points. But also I agree with you. Maybe a team total for Kentucky makes some sense. I think we're getting points here. As long as Kentucky is just average from three-point range, we should have a pretty fun game to watch.
Kentucky is the 5th best offense. Kentucky plays at the 9th fastest tempo in all of college basketball. Kentucky is going to get theirs. The Cats team total is at 89 and a hook. I actually believe Oakland will provide enough to get there as well, to get us over 161.5. It was 162.5 yesterday. Don't love the market working against me on the morning of the round of 64, but still, I do believe that Oakland can do enough offensively and will have a difficult time limiting the Cats. Kentucky's going to get theirs on the offensive side of the floor. When you look at Kentucky beyond that in the South region, the thing that holds them back, the 109th defense in all of college basketball. As you move through the bracket in the South region, that could rear its ugly head. So as we keep it rolling, as we get to the Midwest, the 3-14 matchup is Creighton versus Akron. When you look at the Blue Jays, one of the first games of the day, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, third game to tip off. CU a 12.5-point favorite against the champions of the MAC. That would be the Zips. 142.5 is that total. Creighton over in 9 of its final 14 games, but I don't really know if this one gets over today. 142.5 is that number, 12.5 in favor of the Jays.
Yeah, give me the under in this game. I'm glad you brought that up because I do have Creighton as one of my teams here that I bet a futures bet on to win the national championship. Again, I preface this by saying I don't think they can win it, but the price point is effective where if they can get to the Elite Eight, which I think they can, that ticket starts to turn money. But let's take a look at Creighton. 13th on offense and efficiency, 25th on defense. It's a very well-rounded team. But if you're lining up, boy, styles make fights. This is a real intriguing one. You take a look at a team like Akron that likes to make the three-point shot. 5th in the country at chasing you off of the three-point line. That's Creighton here. You take a look at also at defending it. Top 78 in the country at only allowing 32%. What I've always talked about here, Ben, when you need a team to pull an upset, it's usually when the team isn't as talented is because they're making more three-point shots than you are. I don't think that matches up very well for Akron. But let's flip it over to Creighton's side, Ben, who's a very efficient offense and also loves to shoot the three-point shot. However, 13th in the country defending the three-point shot here is Akron's defense, only allowing 30% as a team. And also, they don't let you shoot a ton of those. And check out this matchup as well. Creighton's offense, 316th in the country in point distribution inside the arc, which means they're heavily reliant on the three-point shot. So two teams that want to shoot the three-point shot going up against the teams that love to defend the three-point shot. Yeah. I look for the under more than the side. Creighton's going to win for me. Don't get that twisted. But at the same time, I think we're headed for an under because they're going to take away what these other teams want to do here on a neutral court. Give me the under.
The Zips under in 12 of their final 16 games as well. They play at a slow pace. Creighton plays at a pretty slow pace. Creighton's offense is efficient, and when they are hitting from deep, as dangerous as you will see. But again, 142.5, I lean to the under as well. Also, one thing about Creighton defensively, really sound, but don't really turn you over. And Akron doesn't have a propensity to turn over the basketball either, which means longer possession lengths and probably keeps us under that total of 142.5. The total I'm most intrigued by, but will not bet, is 147.5 between Illinois, who John Gross, the head coach of Akron, used to coach in Champaign, against Morehead State. 11 and a hook is that number. Total is dropping. Now 146.5 between the Illini and the Eagles. Morehead, the champions of the Ohio Valley. They play at one of the slowest 15 tempos in college basketball. Illinois, anything but. They continue to just go over and over, but the defense for the Illini ranks in the 90s. That is what might hold Illinois back from a deep run in the month of March. Illinois trying to get to the second weekend to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2005. I need to see Illinois perform defensively. Today could go a long way with a Morehead State team that likes to slow it down if that total does in fact stay under the number.
And by the way, you take a look at that total, which is high. They're two very good offenses. We get that. But also, just like the game, Ben, we just talked about, sometimes these styles don't all of a sudden match up and seem it's great for points. Reason pointing it out, Morehead on offense. Style components, top 25 in the country, Ben. 45% of their total shots come from three-point range. Now, Illinois isn't a great defender of the three-point shot. 214th in the nation at allowing 34%. But they're one of the best in the country at chasing you off of that three-point line. Top 10 in the country. So one team that loves the threes, another team saying you're not going to shoot a lot of those, because if we're looking at point distribution, which is so key, and the reason I always bring that up is like, Donnie, why does that make sense? You see what the teams and how they like to score and where they're comfortable at. 311th in point distribution from two-point range for Morehead. And I just told you, all of what's going to happen in this game is Illinois going to chase you off of the three-point line. It doesn't make sense. However, Illinois, we know they can score. They're going to be more talented than Morehead State, so maybe some of these numbers won't really come into play. But again, if we're looking at the three-point shot, you have a very good three-point shooting team here in Illinois at 35% and an awesome defending three-point shot team in Morehead State, top 30 in the country. But then again, you take a look at 151st in the country at shooting the three-point shot here, 23rd in the country at chasing you off the three-point line is Morehead State. When I see those numbers and you want to shoot the three and they're not there, and both of these teams not necessarily feeding off the down low presence, I usually lean on the under here. Again, two teams not used to playing each other on a neutral court environment where both teams want to do something that the other wants to take away. I usually lean on the unders in these times.
Listen, all of these numbers and metrics are to the idea that styles make fights. Could things change in the NCAA tournament in a one-game scenario where if you lose, your season is over on the most significant stage? For sure, but we have to work off the sample size that we have. Illinois, third most efficient offense in all of the country, led by Terrence Shannon Jr., Marcus DeMass, the transfer from Southern Illinois. The Illini are absolutely stacked, but they have been a little bit troublesome in the NCAA tournament here as of late. The 3 seed in a very competitive East region, but the 4th best price to win the East at 9-1. We shared this yesterday. The top 4 teams in the East region, UConn the 1 seed, Iowa State the 2 seed, Illinois the 3 seed, Auburn the 4 seed, all rank in the top 10 of the Ken Palm efficiency ratings. It is a gauntlet to get out of the East. More game-by-game breakdowns on this opening Thursday of the round of 64. Games tip in just a little bit less than 2 hours. Come back and join us up next here on the early line. More breakdowns around the bracket. We continue going around all of the round of 64 on the first full day of the 2024 men's NCAA tournament. One of the 2 best days on the sports calendar. Today and tomorrow, we have you locked. We've got you loaded. 16 matchups on this round of 64 Thursday, and we continue breaking down each and every one. Now we stay in the East region with the 2 seed in this portion of the bracket. Tonight in Omaha, it's Iowa State, a 15.5-point favorite against South Dakota State. Should be a good amount of each fan base there tonight at the CHI Health Center in downtown Omaha. 135.5 is that total. DRS, you shared earlier in the show. Your national championship matchup is Iowa State and Houston. What do you want to see from the Cyclones today in their opening game in the Big Dance?
Just a win, because, again, survive and advance. That's the name of the game here in March Madness. We don't need style points here, and quite frankly, Iowa doesn't like style points because they play such good defense. How good a defense been? How about number 1 in the country in defensive efficiency here? That goes a long way in the tournament, which includes the second-best team in the country at turning you over. Now, granted, sometimes you're going to come against some teams that are very good protecting the basketball. South Dakota State is okay, but also you're talking about Iowa State turning teams over in the Big 12, much more talented than players that you're going to get on South Dakota State. We'll see how that plays into it. But much like we talked about the previous 2 games here, some of these styles are really interesting. And again, if the 3 balls go down, there's nothing you could do about that if teams shoot an unbelievable percentage. And quite frankly, South Dakota State is a very good 3-point shooting team percentage-wise, top 50 in the country. However, if you're taking a look at defending the 3-point shot, Iowa State is good at that. But also, how about this? Letting you shoot the 3-point shot, 353rd in the country here in style. So that means if the 3s are going down, South Dakota State can stay in this ball game. But I always like to bet against that. Neutral court, tough defense here. If those 3-point shots don't go down, we might have the propensity for a blowout. But take a look at this also. Scoring inside the paint. Iowa State's defense is 353rd in the country at allowing you to score. That's not like number 1 would be the worst. They're 353rd. So it tells you how tough they are to even score down low. Take a look at South Dakota State. 2-pointers, point distribution, 359th in the country. So if we're looking at both sides who shoot decent amounts of 3-point shot, percentage-wise, and making those, if they're not going down, nobody really wants to score in the paint against these 2 defenses here. So it sets up as an under for me. Once again, if the 3 ball goes down, you can't do anything about it. But if we're average from 3-point range and stingy inside the paint, give me the under here.
The Cyclones have gone under in 7 of their last 8 games. Of course, it was that stifling defense that won Iowa State a Big 12 tournament title just about a week ago. Iowa State is one of the 2 best cover teams entering this NCAA tournament. 23, 10, and 1 against the number. That's a cover percentage of 69.7%. It is what TJ Otzelberger has done with Iowa State in his 3 years at the helm. They have always been a good cover team. The team that is tied with them at the top, South Carolina, 23-10 ATS. But South Carolina doesn't have many covers as a favorite, at least in conference action. Iowa State, 17-8 against the number. Also under in 11 of 14 with the best defense in the country. You can figure out why. 135 and a hook. Again, that over-under tonight in the first of 2 games in the evening hours out of Omaha, Nebraska. 2 seed in the East region, that is Iowa State. 2 seed in the Midwest, that is Tennessee. They're a 19, and I think the line is actually working in their favor, maybe up north of 20 at this moment. It is 21.5 in favor of Tennessee against the Darlings of 2 years ago when they were also a 15 seed as the champions of the MAC, that St. Peter's. The Peacocks back into the big dance. Shaheen Holloway, of course, now the head coach at Seton Hall, but still doing big things there in JC. 129.5 is the total. The Volunteers, a top 5 defense in the country as well. What do you expect in this 2-15 matchup in the Midwest region?
I live in New Jersey. I bet in New Jersey. Therefore, I can't have any action here on St. Peter's, but doesn't mean I can't handicap this game. But if you're looking at Tennessee, they should easily win this basketball game. And from a betting perspective for me, I wouldn't be looking at covering because I do think Tennessee has a legitimate chance to cover that big number, but it's more of a team total under for St. Peter's. Let's go to the matchups here. Offensive efficiency, and also we're talking about being efficient in a conference in the Metro Atlantic. Much, much different than being efficient in the SEC. You take a look at Tennessee, 3rd overall. You take a look here at St. Peter's, 306. one of the teams that's going to turn the basketball over more than any other team in the country, that is St. Peter's. At almost 20% of the time, they make it up the court. They don't need to get a shot off. That could be disastrous in this game, but you're taking a look at defense here. Three-point shot protection, 45th in the country is Tennessee's defense. Inside the arc, it's 8th overall. Now, let's line up what these teams like to do. We always talk about, Ben, if you are St. Peter's or a team that's getting 20 points, you better be able to shoot the three-point shot and do it effectively. They're 315th in the nation at firing from three-point range, which means they don't like to take a lot of three-point shots. Where could that be devastating? Point distribution for Tennessee's defense, 344th in the country at defending at the rim. Where are the points coming from for St. Peter's tonight? Here's the key ingredient. They're not coming from anywhere tonight. Tennessee should put a strangle on St. Peter's tonight and hold them down. And again, I wish I could bet the team total. I can't even see the team total of what it would be here for St. Peter's, but that's the way I'd be looking under here. Tennessee should have a walk-away victory, and St. Peter's should really struggle to score.
When you look at the Peacocks, they are good on the defensive side of the floor, but DRS, you're asking for that St. Peter's team total. 54.5 is the number, and the under has the juice at minus 120. They don't shoot the three, so maybe they'd be good from inside the arc. No, they have the fourth worst field goal percentage on two-pointers this year. It will be difficult against the Tennessee defense under Rick Barnes that is top 5 in the country and is physical and intense, as you will see. So Tennessee is the 2 seed in the Midwest region. Tennessee trying to change some narratives around its program and its head coach, Rick Barnes, as well, who has led the Volunteers to 5 consecutive NCAA tournaments. They have only reached the Sweet 16 twice. Never beyond the round of 16. I think the most intriguing game of the day is this one in the Midwest region, the 4-13 matchup between Kansas and Sanford. Of course, the big news 2 nights ago, no Kevin McCullough Jr. for KU. When that news came out, Kansas was a 9.5-point favorite for this round of 64 game, still with the uncertainty around the injuries to both McCullough and Hunter Dickinson out there. Kevin McCullough ruled out for the entirety of the big dance. Line worked to 7.5. Now make it 6.5 in favor of Kansas against Sanford. The Bulldogs, the champions of the SoCon. Over under 154.5. Does KU have enough, DRS, even without one of their best players, Kevin McCullough Jr., in the lineup?
Do I think Kansas can win this game? Absolutely. They're much more talented overall still than Sanford is, but we've seen what we got out of, and again, you're going to get one of the starters back in Hunter Dickinson anticipated for this game, but how healthy can you be as a big man with a separated shoulder? You get banged into a couple times. Maybe you can't extend. Maybe you can't use your one arm as much as you would like to do that. But let's take a look at Stanford. Amazing we talk about some of these fights and styles that don't make too much sense. Kansas comes into here with a very good defense. Top 10 nationally in efficiency. However, Sanford, let's take a look at what they do really well. Let's shoot the three-point shot, Ben. 39% really as a team. That's top 10 in the country. And also, they like to shoot it with volume. 89th in the country here at three-point field goals per attempts. But also, take a look at Kansas. Not fantastic at defending the three-point line, giving up about 34% as a team, but also 304th in the nation, Ben, at letting you shoot the three-point shot. I've been waiting for a spot to take a look at where you say to yourself, where does this style make sense? Where's an underdog that shoots an elite three-point shot and the other team will let you shoot that three-point shot? It's this game here. Now, do you sort of get scared off with the pedigree of Kansas only be favored by 6.5? Should they roll, and would you be surprised if they won by 10? No, but Sanford should be in this ball game. It's one of those, if you take a look at and you want the underdog, you're probably best off just taking Sanford in the first half, because let's be honest, if Sanford is down 10 in the second half, it's an uphill climb. They're probably not making the three-point shots, but if they can stay average, and I'm not even talking about, Ben, hey, come out and shoot 6 of 7 from 3 in the first 8 minutes. Just be average. They should be able to hang around in this game tonight. Sanford's probably got a legitimate chance to upset Kansas if that 3 ball is going. They have a pretty good matchup there. It should be a fun one to watch it play out later tonight.
If that 3 ball is going, that is going to be the key. DRS is correct. The Jayhawks don't really run you off the three-point line. They let you take about 41% of your shots on average from beyond the arc. That is perfect for Sanford. I have Sanford plus 6.5 in this matchup. I had it at plus 7.5 after the Kevin McCullough Jr. news. I would sprinkle on the money line as well. If you want to pull a huge upset over the team with the most pedigree in the NCAA tournament, 34 consecutive trips to the big dance for the Jayhawks, that 3 ball needs to work. But also Sanford is just good offensively. 57.6%, the effective field goal percentage anywhere on the floor for this Bulldogs team under Bucky McMillan. Again, the champions of the SoCon. Sanford opened up its season against Purdue. They lost by 40-plus points. Then they played VCU. They lost in that game as well, but it was a closer margin, still in double digits. An underdog of both of those games. In the 4 games since, where Sanford has been a dog, 3-1, both straight up and against the number. And this Kansas team, even with a semi-healthy Kevin McCullough Jr., was going to have some questions because without him out there, he is as versatile as you will find. DeJuan Harris can't orchestrate as well. Johnny Furphy, the talented freshman, can't spread the floor as well. And I would agree, for a lefty in Hunter Dickinson that likes to go to his left side, if your right shoulder is in pain, are you going to be banging in the post as effectively as we have seen in times past? This Kansas team, DRS, despite its 34th consecutive season in the NCAA tournament, enters for the first time under Bill Self with double-digit losses. There were questions around KU before McCullough was ruled out. I still think there are.
There are questions because I understand the talent level is much, much different in the Big 12. But how did you finish the season? Losers of 4 or 5 games. Let's take a look at the last 2 losses. Houston, by 30 points, you lost that game. By the way, that was on the road, which this game is going to be neutral. Cincinnati, who's not even that good, blasted you by 20 points without your stars here in the lineup. So a lot of questions can be answered today by Kansas. But my goodness, don't be surprised if late at night around midnight, we're talking about bracket busters here being Sanford.